Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The air in Jason Morgan's penthouse was always cool, still, and carried a faint, clean scent of leather and metal. It was a space of order, of control, a stark contrast to the chaotic, blood-soaked world he navigated daily as a key figure in Port Charles's underworld. It was his sanctuary, a place where the walls were thick enough to mute the city's constant hum and the demands of his life as a sunny Corinthos' primary enforcer. Today, that silence felt profound, a held breath before a storm. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, a tumbler of amber whiskey untouched in his hand, watching the afternoon sun glint off the distant waters of the harbor. He was waiting for Danny. His son. A familiar warmth spread in his chest, momentarily displacing the cold weight of a recent territorial dispute with a new crew from upstate. Danny was the pure part of his life, the uncomplicated love that existed outside the moral gray areas he inhabited. The boy was a living legacy of his love with Sam, a connection that, despite the tumultuous end of their marriage, remained rooted in their mutual, fierce devotion to their children. Danny was getting older now, shedding the softness of childhood for the lean, awkward angles of a preteen. He was asking more questions, his eyes missing less. Jason knew the day was coming when he would have to find the words to explain the unexplainable, the nature of his work, the reasons for the constant security, the legacy of violence that was, unfairly, part of his inheritance. But for now, there were still afternoons like this one, planned for pizza and video games, a simple, normal father-son ritual that Jason guarded with the same intensity he guarded his territory. The electronic lock on the front door chimed, a soft, melodic tone that signaled an authorized entry. Jason turned from the window, his posture automatically straightening, a rare, genuine smile touching his lips. But it wasn't just Danny. Sam stepped in first, her face a carefully composed mask that Jason, who had known her for so many years, could immediately read as strained. Her eyes met his for a fleeting second, filled with something unreadable, apology? Warning? Fear, before she looked away, fussing with the strap of Danny's backpack. "Hey, Dad!" Danny's voice, bright and energetic, cut through the tension Sam had brought in with her. He shrugged off his backpack, letting it thud to the polished concrete floor. "Hey, buddy," Jason said, his voice softer than it was with anyone else. He moved forward, his focus entirely on his son. "How was school?" "It was okay. We have a huge project for science. On marine ecosystems." Danny rolled his eyes, but a spark of interest was there. "Mom said you guys used to have a boat. Did you ever see, like, a shark or a whale or anything?" "A few sharks, way out," Jason said, the memory of a different life, a life as Jason Quartermain, briefly surfacing before being submerged again. "We'll look it up." His eyes flicked back to Sam, who was lingering by the door, unusually hesitant. "Sam? Everything okay?" She forced a smile, a tight, brittle thing. "Yeah, fine. Danny just forgot his math textbook. He said he needed it for his homework tonight." She gestured vaguely toward the backpack. I'll leave you to it. Have fun, you too." She leaned down, kissed Danny quickly on the head, and then, with one more inscrutable look at Jason, she was gone, the door closing with a definitive click. The strange energy she left behind dissipated slightly, replaced by Danny's palpable excitement. "Can we order from Mario's? The one with the extra pepperoni?" Danny asked, already heading toward the large media console. "Sure," Jason said, pulling out his phone. But a sliver of unease remained, a nagging sense that Sam's behavior was a flag on the field of his otherwise controlled environment. He dismissed it. Co-parenting with Sam was a constant exercise in navigating her emotional currents. It was probably nothing. He placed the order, and for the next hour, the penthouse was filled with the sounds of digital gunfire and their easy, comfortable banter. Danny was unusually talkative, not just about the game, but about school, his friends, a girl he thought was annoying but kinda cool. Jason listened, offering minimal but engaged responses, savoring the normalcy. This was the life he fought for, killed for. This peace. During a lull, as a game level was loading, Danny fished his phone out of his pocket. It was a new, expensive model, a gift for his last birthday, and he was perpetually attached to it. Jason watched him, a fond exasperation on his face, as the boy's thumbs flew across the screen. "Texting your mom already?" Jason asked, a gentle tease in his voice. Danny shook his head, not looking up. "Nah. Just checking something." A moment later, his phone buzzed, not with a text tone, but with a specific, melodic ringtone Jason didn't recognize. A video call. Danny's face lit up, a different kind of smile now, eager, excited, almost reverent. "Hey, cool. It's him," Danny said, swiping to accept the call. Jason felt the first, cold trickle of alarm. "Who is it, Danny?" But Danny was already speaking into the phone, his voice bright and full of affection. "Hey! We just beat the lava level. It was so hard." A man's voice, warm, familiar, and utterly impossible, echoed from the phone speaker. "That's my boy. Told you could do it. You just have to time the jumps right." Jason froze. The world, the penthouse, the sounds of the game, everything receded into a high-pitched whine. That voice. It was a voice from a nightmare, a voice that belonged to a ghost. It was layered with a warmth he never used with Jason, a paternal pride that was so genuine it was sickening. He knew that voice as well as he knew his own. It was the voice of the man who had tried to destroy his family, who had terrorized Sam, who had been a constant, malevolent shadow over their lives. It was the voice of a man who was supposed to be dead. Drew Kane. But not his Drew. Not the brother, the comrade, the man with whom he had shared a face and a fractured history. This was the other Drew. The one who had come back from the dead with his memories twisted, his psyche weaponized against them. The one who, in his madness, had believed Danny was his son. Jason had fought him, contained him, and ultimately, believed he had lost him. He was gone. Vanished. A closed, painful chapter. And now his voice was filling Jason's living room, speaking to his son with intimate familiarity. "Who are you talking to, Danny?" Jason's own voice sounded distant, a low rumble of thunder on a far horizon. Danny, oblivious to the seismic shift happening beside him, grinned. "It's Dad," he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. The floor dropped out from under Jason. The air grew thick, impossible to breathe. He slowly stood up, his movements stiff, robotic. He walked around the couch until he was standing behind Danny, looking over his shoulder at the screen of the phone. And there he was. Drew. Older, his face more lined, his hair a bit longer, but his eyes held a disturbing clarity they had lacked in his final, frenzied days in Port Charles. They were focused, calm, and they crinkled at the corners with a smile as he looked at Danny. He was in a well-lit, nondescript room, a bookshelf visible behind him. He looked healthy. Normal. He looked like a father talking to his son. "Jason," Drew said, his smile faltering only slightly, his tone shifting from warm paternalism to cautious neutrality. It was the tone one might use with a volatile business associate. Danny, finally sensing the ice-cold aura radiating from his father, looked up, his own smile fading into confusion. "What's wrong, Dad?" Jason couldn't speak. His hand, the one not clenched into a white-knuckled fist at his side, reached out and gently took the phone from Danny's grasp. His grip was like iron. "What are you doing?" Jason's voice was a whisper, but it carried the force of a shout. On the screen, Drew's expression was infuriatingly calm. "I'm talking to my son. He is not your son." Each word was a chip of ice, dropped into the silence. "Jason, let's not do this in front of him," Drew said, his voice low, reasonable. It was that reasonableness that was the final, unforgivable provocation. "Who is he, Danny?" Jason asked, his eyes locked on the screen, but his question directed at the boy behind him. "Who do you think this is?" Danny's confusion was now tinged with defensiveness. "It's Dad. My other dad. Drew." The words, "my other dad," landed like a physical blow. Jason felt the foundations of his world, the truths he had built his life upon, crack and splinter. How long? How long had this been going on? The secret texts, the hushed phone calls, Sam's strange behavior at the door, it all clicked into a horrifying, treasonous picture. "Jason, listen to me," Drew's voice came through the speaker, still calm, still trying to manage the situation. "This isn't what you think." "You don't get to tell me what to think," Jason snarled, the control he was famous for shredding like tissue paper. "You don't get to speak to him. You don't get to be near him. You are dead. You are supposed to be dead." "Dad, stop it!" Danny cried out, his voice trembling. He stood up, trying to reach for the phone. "Give it back! You're being weird!" Jason ignored him, his entire being focused on the face on the screen, the face of the man who had infiltrated his most sacred space. "If you ever contact him again, I will find you. And this time, I will finish it." "Jason, you're scaring him," Drew said, and for the first time, a flicker of anger showed in his eyes. "This isn't about you and me. This is about what Danny needs. What he needs is to be protected from you." Jason roared, the sound explosive in the quiet room. Danny flinched back, tears welling in his eyes. "Stop yelling. He's my dad too. Mom said it was okay. She said I could talk to him." And there it was. The final, devastating piece of the puzzle. Mom said it was okay. Sam. Sam knew. Sam had not only known, she had facilitated this. She had orchestrated this betrayal. She had handed their son, over video calls and text messages, to the man who was once their greatest enemy. The man who had caused them immeasurable pain. The complicity was a deeper, more intimate wound than Drew's contact could ever be. The phone slipped from Jason's numb fingers, clattering to the hard floor. The screen didn't go dark. Drew's voice, tinny and frantic now, called out, "Danny? Danny, are you okay? Jason, for God's sake!" Jason turned away from the sound, his chest heaving. He looked at his son, his beautiful, confused, betrayed son, who was staring at him with a mixture of fear and defiance he had never seen there before. "Dad?" Danny's voice was small, shattered. The word, which usually filled him with warmth, now felt like a lie. This entire life, this afternoon, this peace, it was all a lie, constructed on a foundation of secrets kept by the person he had once trusted most in the world. "Get your things," Jason said, his voice hollow, emptied of all emotion. "Where are we going?" "We're going to see your mother." The drive to Sam's apartment was conducted in a silence so heavy it felt suffocating. Jason stared straight ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly the leather groaned. Every traffic light was an eternity. Every pedestrian crossing was a deliberate delay. The city outside the car window was a blur. All he could see was Sam's face, her evasive eyes, her brittle smile. He replayed every recent interaction, searching for clues, for signs he had missed. The times Danny had been unusually quiet on the phone with him. The new, secretive smiles at his own phone. The way Sam had always been quick to change the subject when Drew's name was mentioned in any context. It had been a conspiracy, playing out right under his nose. In the passenger seat, Danny was curled against the door, as far from his father as he could get. He was crying, silent, angry tears that he wiped away fiercely with the sleeve of his hoodie. The gulf between them, in the confines of the luxury car, felt oceanic and unbridgeable. They reached the apartment building. Jason didn't remember parking. He was moving on autopilot, a guided missile locked onto its target. He marched through the lobby, Danny trailing behind him, a silent, miserable shadow. He didn't bother with the intercom. He used the key code Sam had given him for emergencies, his fingers stabbing at the numbers. The door to her apartment swung open. Sam was in the living room, sitting on the sofa with a laptop, a cup of tea steaming on the coffee table. She looked up as they entered, her expression initially one of surprise at their early return, which then morphed into immediate, gut-level alarm as she took in the scene, Jason's face, a mask of cold, murderous fury, and Danny's tear-streaked, terrified one. Jason? What's going on? What happened? She stood up, her maternal instincts driving her toward her son. Danny, baby, are you okay? Jason moved, a swift, deliberate step that put him between Sam and Danny. Don't, he bit out, the single word a warning shot. Sam stopped in her tracks, her eyes wide. Jason, you're scaring him. What is this? You tell me, Sam. His voice was dangerously quiet. You tell me what this is. Danny broke then, the words tumbling out in a sobbing rush. He was yelling. He took my phone and he was yelling at Drew. He said he was going to kill him. The color drained from Sam's face. She looked from Danny's hysterical face to Jason's stony one, and the truth of the situation crashed down upon her. The secret was out. The carefully constructed house of cards had collapsed. Jason, she began, her voice trembling, let me explain. Explain? The word was a bark of disbelieving laughter. Explain what, Sam? Explain how my son is having video calls with a man who tried to tear our family apart? Explain how he calls him dad? Explain how you knew? How you let this happen? It's not that simple, she cried, her own defensiveness rising to meet his anger. You have no idea what it's been like. I have no idea, he repeated, taking a step toward her. The space between them crackled with hostile energy. I have no idea what it's like to protect our son from a known psychopath? I think I have a pretty good idea, Sam. I've spent my life doing exactly that. And you just opened the door and invited him in. He's not a psychopath. Danny shouted from behind Jason, his small voice cracking with emotion. He's nice. He listens to me. He doesn't just sit there and say uh-huh like you do. The accusation, childish and brutally honest, was a fresh knife to Jason's heart. It gave Sam a foothold. You see, she said, her voice gaining strength. You see what this is about? It's not about Drew. It's about Danny. He has questions, Jason. He's confused. He grew up with two fathers who looked identical. He's trying to understand who he is, where he comes from. And you decided the best person to help him understand was the man who kidnapped you? The man who held us at gunpoint? The man who would have killed us all if he'd had the chance. Jason's voice was rising again, each question a lash. You thought that was a healthy choice for our son? He's changed, Jason. Sam insisted, stepping closer, her eyes pleading now. He's gotten help. He's stable. He reached out to me months ago. He was remorseful, he was broken. All he wanted was a chance to apologize, to have some kind of connection with the boy he believed was his son for so long. And you believed him? You, of all people? After everything he did to you? The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, he could barely comprehend it. You didn't think to come to me? You didn't think I had a right to know that a dangerous man from our past was back in our lives, talking to our child? And what would you have done, Jason? Sam shot back, her own fury finally breaking through. You would have done exactly what you did today. You would have gone into full attack mode. You would have threatened him, hunted him down. You wouldn't have listened. You never listen. You just act. So you lied to me, he roared, the sound echoing off the apartment walls. You went behind my back and you orchestrated this relationship between our son and a madman, and you lied to me every single day. It wasn't a lie. It was a managed situation. I was protecting him. You were not protecting him. You were indulging your own guilt. Or your own nostalgia. Or I don't even know what twisted logic you used to justify this, Sam, but you were not protecting our son. You put him directly in the line of fire. I was giving him a chance to have a relationship with someone who wants to be a positive influence. Sam yelled, tears now streaming down her face. Something you are clearly incapable of understanding. This isn't one of your mob wars, Jason. This is family. It's complicated. Don't you dare, Jason snarled, closing the final distance between them until they were mere inches apart. His body was trembling with the effort to contain his rage. Don't you dare lecture me about family. I have killed for this family. I have died for this family. Everything I have ever done, every single thing, has been to keep you and our children safe. And you spit on that. You took the one thing that is pure and you poisoned it with your secrets and your lies. It wasn't a lie, she repeated, her voice becoming shrill. What would you call it, then? He demanded, his voice dropping back to that deadly whisper. When my son tells me he's been talking to his other dad, and that his mother said it was okay, what is that, if not a lie? What is that, if not a betrayal of everything we are supposed to be to each other as parents? He has a right to know, Drew. Sam cried, throwing her hands up in desperation. Drew is a part of his history. He is a part of our nightmare. Jason thundered. And you have invited that nightmare back into our son's life. You have made a decision that was not yours alone to make. You have violated my trust in a way I didn't think was possible. The air was thick with their pain and anger. Danny was sobbing openly now, a helpless spectator to the total demolition of his parents' relationship. The sound finally pierced through the red haze of Jason's fury. He turned and looked at his son, at the utter devastation on his young face, and a fresh, more profound wave of agony washed over him. This was the collateral damage. This was the real crime. He turned back to Sam, all the fire in him suddenly gone, replaced by an arctic coldness that was far more terrifying. You have spent years judging me, he said, his voice flat and final. You have judged my choices, my methods, my life. You held yourself up as the moral center, the one who knew what was best for our family. But this is the most immoral, reckless, and unforgivable thing you have ever done. He took a step back, his eyes sweeping over her as if seeing a stranger. You are his mother. I cannot change that. But from this moment on, you and I are done. As partners. As co-parents. As anything. We will have a legal arrangement. We will have scheduled visits. And you will never, ever make a decision about our son's safety without my knowledge and consent again. Do you understand me? Sam stared at him, her face a mask of shock and horror. She had seen Jason angry, she had seen him cold, but she had never seen this absolute, emotionless finality. She had broken something that could not be fixed. Jason, please. She whispered, her defiance utterly gone, replaced by a desperate plea. He didn't answer her. He looked past her, to Danny. Come on, son. You're staying with me tonight. He didn't wait for an argument. He simply turned and walked toward the door. After a moment's hesitation, a final, lost look at his mother, Danny followed him, his small shoulders slumped in defeat. The door closed behind them, leaving Sam alone in the wreckage of her living room, the ghost of Drew and the consequences of her secret echoing in the crushing silence. The secret was out, and it had taken everything with it. Jason stood in the middle of the dimly lit living room, the tension thick enough to choke on. His jaw was tight, his hands balled into fists as he stared at Danny, who sat frozen on the couch. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the clock on the wall, ticking through the unbearable silence. Jason's heart was pounding so hard he could barely hear himself think. He had imagined many things, but not this, never this. The truth he had just discovered burned through him like acid. You're going to tell me this isn't true, Jason said finally, his voice low, calm in a way that made it even more terrifying. You're going to tell me it's a lie. Danny's eyes darted to the floor. He wanted to speak, but the words wouldn't come. His throat tightened as he felt his father's glare piercing through him. Dad, I can explain, Danny muttered, his voice trembling. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Jason's breathing grew heavier. Explain, he repeated, his voice cracking through the air. You lied to me for months, Danny. You went behind my back, you risked everything. You knew what this would do to me, to us, and you did it anyway. Danny looked up then, tears pooling in his eyes. I didn't mean to lie, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I was trying to help. Jason stepped closer, his boots heavy on the hardwood floor. Help? By keeping secrets from me? By working with people who could have gotten you killed? His tone was raw, the fury bubbling just beneath the surface. Danny's lip trembled as he tried to find the words, but Jason's next question cut him to the core. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I wouldn't notice the calls, the messages, the missing hours? Jason's voice cracked on the last word, and for a brief moment, his anger gave way to heartbreak. Danny finally blurted it out, unable to hold it back any longer. I was working with Dex, he shouted, his voice echoing in the room. He said you were in danger, that there was something coming for you, and I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I thought if I helped him, I could protect you. Jason's eyes went wide, and for a moment, the room seemed to spin. Dex, he repeated in disbelief. You've been working with Dex Heller? The same guy who's been lying to everyone in this town? The same man who's been keeping secrets from Sunny? His voice rose with every word. Danny swallowed hard, tears streaking down his face. He said it was for the right reasons. He said if I helped him, no one would get hurt. Jason's rage erupted. No one would get hurt, he shouted, slamming his hand against the table so hard a picture frame fell and shattered on the floor. You could have been killed, Danny. You have no idea what kind of danger you were in. These people don't care about you, they use you until you're no good to them anymore. Danny's voice cracked. I know, Dad. I know it was stupid, but I was scared for you. I heard them talking about a hit, about someone coming after you. I thought if I could stop it, but before he could finish, Jason's open hand came down hard across his son's face. The sound of the slap echoed through the room like a gunshot. Danny stumbled back, his hand flying to his cheek in shock. Jason froze, his chest heaving, his mind reeling at what he'd just done. The silence that followed was suffocating. Dad, Danny whispered, his voice trembling. You hit me. Jason's face crumpled with guilt, but his anger hadn't fully burned out. Do you even understand what you've done? He said hoarsely. I have spent my entire life trying to keep you safe, and the second I turn my back, you walk straight into the kind of danger I've spent years trying to shield you from. You betrayed my trust, Danny. Tears streamed down Danny's face. I wasn't trying to betray you, he said. I was trying to be like you. You always protect people, you always fight for what's right. I wanted to do that too. Jason turned away, running his hands over his face, trying to keep himself together. You're not me, Danny, he said quietly. You're not supposed to live like this. I wanted better for you. His voice broke, the anger giving way to something deeper, fear, regret, and love all tangled together. You think this life is something to admire? You think I like living every day wondering who's coming after me next? Danny's breath hitched as he tried to explain, but Jason wasn't done. You put yourself right in the middle of something you don't understand, he said, his voice low but intense. Dex doesn't tell the whole truth. He's playing both sides. If you got caught in the crossfire, Jason stopped, unable to even say the words. I can't lose you, Danny. Not after everything. Not after your mother, his voice trailed off, filled with pain. Danny wiped his tears. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't think. I just wanted to make sure you were safe. Jason turned slowly, his blue eyes softening as he looked at his son. You have to trust me, he said, his tone gentler now. If something's wrong, if someone's after me, I can handle it. You can't take that on yourself. Danny nodded, his body still trembling. I know, he whispered. I messed up. Jason sighed deeply, then walked over and sat down beside him. For a long time, they said nothing. The air was heavy with all the things that didn't need words. You remind me so much of myself, Jason said finally, his voice rough with emotion. You've got my stubbornness, my need to fix everything, even when it's not your fight. But you have to understand, this life doesn't end well for people like me. Danny looked up at him, eyes red and swollen. I don't care, he said quietly. You're my dad. If something happens to you, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Jason swallowed hard, his throat tight. And if something happened to you because of me, I couldn't live with that either. His voice broke, and for the first time, Danny saw his father's tears. Jason pulled him into a hug, holding on tight, his heart aching with both love and regret. I'm sorry, Jason whispered. I shouldn't have hit you. Danny nodded against his chest. It's okay, he said softly. I shouldn't have lied. But the peace between them was fragile. Outside that small room, danger was still circling. Jason knew Dex wasn't acting alone. The information Danny had gotten involved in was connected to something much bigger, a conspiracy that reached into the heart of Port Charles. You said they were planning a hit, Jason said suddenly, pulling back slightly. Who's they? Danny shook his head, trying to remember everything Dex had told him. I don't know all of it, he said. Just that someone wanted to take you out before the next shipment came in. Dex said it was someone close to Sunny. Jason's stomach dropped. Someone close to Sunny, he repeated. That could mean anyone, Brick, one of the guards, even one of the warehouse guys. His mind was already racing, putting the pieces together. If Dex knew about it, then it's possible he's working both ends. He's feeding information to the feds or to someone trying to take Sunny down. Danny's eyes widened. You think Dex set me up? Jason's face hardened. If he used you to get to me, I'll find him. He stood up, pacing now, the soldier in him taking over. I should have known he'd try something like this. Danny stood too, panic rising in his voice. Dad, please don't go after him. You'll just make it worse. He's not all bad. He really did try to help. Jason turned sharply. You don't understand, Danny. In this world, people do what helps them survive. If Dex thought using you would buy him more time, he'd do it without hesitation. Danny shook his head. No, you're wrong about him. Jason frowned. And what if I'm not? The tension between them flared again, and Danny looked down, unsure of what to believe anymore. There was a knock at the door, sharp and urgent. Jason's instincts kicked in instantly, his hand went to the holster at his side. Stay here, he ordered, moving toward the door cautiously. He peered through the window before opening it. Standing outside was Sam, her expression a mix of worry and anger. Jason, what the hell happened? She demanded, pushing past him into the room. Her eyes immediately landed on Danny, who still looked shaken. Why is he crying? Did something happen? Jason hesitated, guilt flashing across his face. We had a fight, he admitted quietly. He made a mistake. Sam's eyes narrowed. A mistake that made you look like that? Jason, what did you do? Danny jumped in before Jason could answer. It was my fault, Mom, he said quickly. I lied to Dad about something. I was trying to help, and it got out of control. Sam looked between them, her protective instincts kicking in. Jason, did you hit him? She asked in disbelief. Jason looked down, ashamed. Yeah, he said quietly. And I hate myself for it. Sam's expression softened, but the hurt in her eyes was clear. You can't do that, Jason, she said. He's a kid. He's your son. Jason nodded. I know. I lost control,